Patek Philippe made a $31 million watch. They also make a $5,000 watch. Both carry the same name on the dial, both were made in Geneva, both will outlast the people who own them. What separates them isn't craftsmanship. Not entirely. It's a system. 7 levels of deliberate scarcity, status engineering, and resale mathematics that Patek Philippe has been quietly running for over 180 years. Most people have heard of Patek. Most people assume it's completely out of reach. They're wrong about the second part, and that misunderstanding is exactly what keeps the system working. This is the complete map of every level. The entry points the dealers don't advertise, the models that hold value, and the ones that quietly bleed it. The level where the real money gets made. And the watch is at the very top, so rare, so extraordinary, that most collectors will spend their entire lives without seeing one in person. By the end of this, you'll know exactly which level you're on, and what it actually takes to move up. Level 1 is the most important level in the entire Patek Philippe system. It is also the one nobody talks about. Patek Philippe was founded in Geneva in 1839. It has never been publicly listed. It has never been absorbed by LVMH, Richemont, or any luxury conglomerate. It is still owned and operated by the Stern family, a Swiss dynasty that has controlled the brand since 1932, currently under Thierry Stern, the 4th generation of the family, to run the house. That private ownership is not a footnote. It is the foundation of every pricing decision, every supply decision, and every allocation decision Patek has made for nearly a century. It means they control the narrative completely. The narrative they prefer is that Patek Philippe starts at approximately $30,000. That narrative protects retail price integrity. It keeps the brand aspirational, and it is technically accurate for new watches from authorized dealers. But the pre-owned market tells a different story. A vintage Calatrava, Patek's foundational 3-hand dress watch, a design introduced in 1932 that has barely changed since, can be found in excellent condition for between $10,000 and $18,000 on the secondary market. Reference 3796, reference 3998, reference 5107. Simple, elegant, no complications, no distractions. Platforms like Chrono24, Watchbox, and Bob's Watches surface these regularly, but knowing which references to search for is half the work. A movement carrying the Patek Philippe seal, the brand's proprietary quality certification that replaced the external Geneva seal in 2009 and holds it to an even higher internal standard, sits inside a case that runs circles around anything a competing brand charging 3 times less could ever produce. This is level 1. The Patek that Patek doesn't need to advertise because the people who find it are already the right kind of buyer. At this level, condition, movement service history, and documentation are everything. The movement is the watch. Learn to read one before you buy. Level 2 is where most people begin their Patek journey because it's the first place where walking into an authorized dealer is a realistic option. Entry-level new Patek Philippe watches, a base Calatrava in rose or white gold, an introductory gondolo, a simplified ladies' piece, sit between $25,000 and $35,000 at retail. This is where the famous Patek marketing line begins to carry genuine weight. You never actually own a Patek Philippe. You merely look after it for the next generation. That line is genius. Not because it's poetic, though it is, but because it completely reframes the transaction. You're not spending $30,000 on a watch. You're making a multi-generational asset transfer. The marketing does the rationalization for you. But here's the part most buyers at level 2 don't fully understand. Buying a new Patek from an authorized dealer is not just a purchase. It is the first move in a longer game. Because Patek allocates, meaning the references you can access in the future depend on the purchase history you build right now. Dealers remember, the system rewards loyalty and history above almost everything else, including money. Walking in with $100,000 and no relationship gets you nowhere near the pieces you actually want. Walking in with a $35,000 Calatrava on your wrist and a 3-year purchase history gets you a conversation. Level 2 is the opening position. Level 3 is where Patek Philippe separates itself from every other watchmaker on the planet. This is the complication tier. A mechanical complication is any function beyond hours, minutes, and seconds. A date, a moon phase, an annual calendar that automatically adjusts for months of different lengths, requiring only one manual correction per year in February. A perpetual calendar is a mechanism so precisely engineered that it accounts for every month of differing length, including leap years, without adjustment until the year 2100. Patek builds perpetual calendars the way other brands build date windows. At their level of craft, it is a baseline expectation. Entry complication pieces, such as a perpetual calendar without chronograph, an annual calendar, or a moon phase, sit between $40,000 and $65,000 depending on case, metal, and reference. The annual calendar reference 5,396 is the iconic entry point here. At this level, the watch is no longer just a status object, it is engineering. This is also the tier where resale performance begins to diverge sharply from the broader watch market. Perpetual calendar Patek watches from respected references hold value with a consistency that rivals and often exceeds the secondary premiums on sports watches from other houses. Not because of hype cycles, because the buyers at this level are not speculators, they are collectors and they do not sell. When supply from the secondary market is low and demand from serious collectors remains steady, prices do not collapse the way speculative watches do. The complications tier is arguably the most stable value proposition in all of Swiss watchmaking. No map of the 7 levels is complete without confronting level 4, the level that made Patek Philippe front page news and introduced the brand to an entirely new generation of buyers who had never owned a watch worth more than a few $100s, the Nautilus. And its sibling, the Aquanaut, designed by Gerald Genta, the same man who designed the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. He reportedly sketched it on a napkin the night before he presented it to Audemars Piguet's management. The Nautilus launched in 1976 as a stainless steel sports watch priced at a premium to gold Rolex. The logic was deliberate and radical. Steel could command more than gold if the design was extraordinary enough and the scarcity was engineered correctly. 50 years later, that gamble has become one of the most studied examples of luxury brand strategy in modern business history. At peak secondary market demand in 2021, the stainless steel Nautilus reference 5,711 was trading at over $200,000 on the gray market, against a retail price of approximately $35,000, a ratio of nearly 6 to 1. The Aquanaut 5167A was commanding similar numbers. And when Patek announced the discontinuation of the 5,711 in 2021, one final variant made the frenzy permanent, the Tiffany Blue Nautilus 5711 1A18, produced in partnership with Tiffany & Company with a distinctive blue sign dial, briefly traded above $6 million at auction, a steel sports watch, $6 million. Post-correction, secondary prices have moderated. The 5711 now trades between $80,000 and $120,000, depending on condition and documentation. Still 3 to 4 times retail, still one of the most liquid assets in the luxury watch market. And for anyone watching developments at Watches and Wonders Geneva, the annual industry showcase where Patek makes its most significant announcements, the conversation has now shifted toward the Cubitus. Launched in 2024, Patek's newest sports watch introduces a square case architecture that deliberately echoes the Genta design language while staking out entirely new territory. Whether the Cubitus becomes the next Nautilus-level phenomenon is the most watched question in the industry right now. But here is the piece that almost no coverage ever explained clearly about the Nautilus era. Those premiums did not exist because the Nautilus is the finest watch Patek makes. They existed because Patek deliberately produced so few of them that demand structurally outstripped supply for years. The gray market premium was not a market inefficiency, it was the system performing exactly as designed. Artificial scarcity is not a Rolex invention. Patek refined it into an art form decades before anyone was paying attention. Level 4 is where you buy a Patek because of what other people see when you wear it. There is nothing wrong with that, but you should know the difference between what you are buying and why you are buying it. Because the Nautilus buyer and the perpetual calendar buyer at level 3 may be spending similar money on very different things. Level 5 is where the audience changes entirely. Between $150,000 and $500,000, Patek Philippe produces watches for people who have moved beyond caring about what others see and begun caring about what is actually inside the case. These are the complications that require years on a waiting list, not because of scarcity management, but because of the sheer time required to build them. A minute repeater, a complication that chimes the hours, quarters, and minutes on demand through precisely tuned gongs and hammers, takes Patek's master watchmakers between 6 months and a year to assemble and regulate for a single movement. The acoustic tuning alone requires a level of skill that fewer than 100 craftspeople in the world currently possess. The split-seconds chronograph, a mechanism using 2 independent seconds hands to time multiple concurrent events, involves components measured in fractions of a millimeter, tolerances that approach the limits of what human hands can achieve with any consistency. The reference 5204, a split-seconds chronograph with perpetual calendar, sits at this level. The reference 5316P, a perpetual calendar minute repeater in platinum, sits here too. At level 5, you are no longer in the watch market. You are in the haute horlogerie market. The buyers at this level typically understand the movement specifications better than the dealers presenting them. These are not financial instruments. They are the clearest possible statement about what a person values and how far they are willing to go to get it. Patek Philippe produces approximately 50,000 watches per year. By comparison, Rolex produces more than 1 million. At level 6, between $500,000 and several $1 million, you are looking at the watches produced in the smallest numbers within that already restricted output. The Sky Moon Tourbillon, the Celestial, the advanced grand complication pieces in platinum that require years of internal development before a single example reaches a buyer. The Grandmaster Chime reference 6300 is the current summit of Patek's production capability, 20 complications, years in development produced in single-digit annual numbers. Owning one requires a direct relationship with Patek Geneva, not a dealer relationship, that typically takes years of demonstrated collector history to establish. Patek has declined to sell level 6 pieces to buyers who could not demonstrate the appropriate collector pedigree, even when those buyers arrived with sufficient funds. That is a degree of brand control that almost no other luxury goods company in the world currently exercises. They are not selling to you, they are selecting you. And then there is level 7. On the 9th of November 2019, a stainless steel Patek Philippe Grandmaster Chime, reference 6300A10, sold at the only watch charity auction in Geneva for $31 million. It remains the most expensive wristwatch ever sold at public auction, surpassing the previous record held by the Paul Newman Rolex Daytona. It was stainless steel, the same material as a Nautilus, the same material as a Rolex Submariner. The price was not about the metal. It was not entirely about the 20 complications inside the case. It was about the fact that exactly one of these watches exists in the world. It was made specifically for this auction, unique in history. At level 7, you are no longer inside the watch market. You are operating inside the art market, the collector market, the philanthropic record market. The buyer did not purchase a timepiece. They purchased a permanent place in horological history, an object that will appear in every serious account of watchmaking for the next 200 years. Most people will never be at level 7, most will never be at level 6, but understanding that those levels exist and understanding the precise architecture that connects a $10,000 pre-owned Calatrava to a $31 million auction record changes the way you see every Patek Philippe you encounter at any price point. This is the complete system, 7 levels, 187 years of deliberate construction. What makes Patek Philippe genuinely different from every other luxury watch brand is not movement quality alone, though the quality is exceptional. It is the consistency of the philosophy behind every decision the Stern family makes. Every allocation, every production cap, every price point, measured against a single question: does this protect the long-term integrity of what we are building? That is why they did not sell to LVMH when approached. That is why they hold the production line steady while demand climbs. That is why the entry into the system remains possible for someone who knows where to look, while the summit remains genuinely inaccessible to almost everyone, regardless of how much money they have. The hierarchy is not accidental. It was never accidental. So which level are you actually on? And more importantly, now that you understand how the system works, which level do you actually want to be on? Because those are often two very different questions. If this changed the way you think about what a watch brand is actually worth and why, subscribe. This is what the watch business does. No dealer hype, no brand advertising, just the real economics behind the watches the industry does not want explained clearly.